I'm David Blomberg. I'm a retired general pathologist and one of the chief editors of, senior editors of this atlas. My background has been a mixture of the practice of general pathology and an academic area with teaching of both medical students and pathology residents and fellows. I've been actively involved in the state pathology societies, national pathology societies. I've been involved with the CAP for over 40 years, serving in the accreditation program and on various resource committees. For this atlas, in addition to my editorial roles, I have written the section on the history of hematology, the history and development of microscopy, and the history of the proficiency testing in the laboratory accreditation program. The history of the accreditation program has recently become available with the formal establishment of an archives department in the CAP headquarters, and I would like to briefly highlight some of the steps involved in the development of this program as it exists today. Beginning in 1946, the Committee on Laboratories of the Medical Society of Pennsylvania conducted a survey of local hospital laboratories to assess the accuracy of selected laboratory tests. In this survey, no laboratory achieved acceptable results for all the analytes tested. The CAP was founded in 1946 and followed this survey with one of its own, and again in 1947. These results were never published. Subsequently, a group of pathologists in Pennsylvania developed a national survey which was circulated by subscription, and over time was able to demonstrate significant improvement in performance by participating laboratories. In 1962, the CAP took charge of this survey and released the results as the National Hemoglobin Survey. There were over 1,100 laboratories that participated in this initial survey. The results were reported but weren't really separated by either assay methodology or testing platform, and so the conclusions that could be drawn were limited. In 1964, a second survey was released, this time including 2 peripheral blood smears in addition. One could not be evaluated. The other one, an example of hemoglobin SC disease, was responded to by 80% of these laboratories, and half of them were able to correctly identify the smear as an example of hemoglobin SC disease. In 1965, the glass slide format was replaced by Kodachromes, and an attempt was made to separate results by different testing platforms. In 1967, with passage of the CLIA 1967 legislation, laboratories involved in interstate commerce were required to be certified by HEW. And the CAP was one of several organizations contracted with by HEW to certify these laboratories. HEW did not require the laboratories to participate in a formal proficiency testing program, but if you were to be certified by the CAP required that you participate. Physician office laboratories were exempt from the requirements of CLIA 67. Also, around 1967, the CAP Standards Committee could no longer manage an expanding proficiency testing program, and so created a number of resource committees, one of which was the Hematology and Clinical Microscopy Resource Committee. These committees were to provide scientific expertise and were to manage the programs in their area of expertise. By 1970, there were over 7,000 survey participants. Within the area of hematology, automatic particle counters were now included in the surveys. Product development was outsourced as it became just too much work for the resource committee to handle all of the issues associated with product development. The committee instead was involved in the oversight and approval of these products. For the first time, proficiency testing was now offered to international laboratories, many of which were Department of Defense laboratories. Today, there are many laboratories that are not Department of Defense laboratories that also participate internationally. By 1990, flow cytometry was added to the test menu. CLIA 88 was implemented in 1990. Under CLIA 88, all testing laboratories, including physicians' office laboratories in the United States, were required to participate. Management of this was assigned to CMS, and they were required to develop testing standards, reagent systems, acceptable testing platforms, and criteria regarding personnel that could do various kinds of testing in order to be accredited. The CAP was, again, one of the organizations that was authorized to conduct inspections. Since all checklist questions had to be pre-approved by CMS, and the CAP also wanted to retain an educational value to these surveys, the committees instituted ungraded challenges, which were developed and were not considered in accreditation decisions. The first ungraded challenge was released in 1993 and dealt with the issue of banned neutrophils. In 1998, a similar effort was released, which this time involved the classification of atypical lymphocytes. The CAP published its results on these topics and, in addition, released one on trypanosomiasis, topics on atypical monocytic disorders, myeloproliferative syndromes, and quality control. The study on atypical lymphocytes is published in its entirety in this atlas, including all of the released Kodachromes that were evaluated. By 2000, over 7,000 laboratories were involved in the program. In 2006, the Kodachrome slides were replaced with digital images which were electronically distributed. And in 2007, technologists could now earn CME credits by participating in this program. Further discussions were released by committee members on confirmatory tests in hematology, such as hybridization and molecular cytogenetics. For the future, there's an intent to release programs related to whole slide imaging in an attempt to allow participants to participate in the program in a way that is more realistic to what they actually do in practice. This program is hosted at the CAP in what we refer to as the cloud. The proficiency surveys and the committee itself are dedicated to provide continuing improvement in the laboratory testing experience and accreditation process, and we hope that this atlas is going to be useful to you in your practice.